Alberta's Open for Summer plan is in full swing, with most of the pandemic restrictions being lifted. To talk about how the economy has been bouncing back and recovering so far is UCP Lethbridge East MLA Nathan Neudorf. Nathan, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Great to be here, Hal.
Now, Nathan, here in Lethbridge, folks are so happy to see the movie mill open once again to full capacity. People are enjoying themselves at restaurants and, of course, full places of worship here. But let's start with our churches for a moment. The pastors you've been speaking with must be feeling quite relieved that they're able to welcome back a lot of their congregants.
They absolutely are, Hal. It's been a long time and a lot of restrictions that are really hard and challenging for often small churches to meet, but they've done a great job. I'm really proud of all of our religious facilities here in Lethbridge, trying to protect others, trying to adhere the guidelines. And again, we've just got a terrific record here in Lethbridge, and they're really glad to be fully open.
How about some of the business owners? Many have gone under during the pandemic, but those who survived must also be breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, it has been incredibly difficult, particularly for our hospitality and tourism sector. They've just had a really difficult times with increased restrictions and then opening partially and then restrictions again. My heart goes out to anybody who did lose a business. That's incredibly difficult, and I hope that they can bounce back as quickly as possible. And the businesses that have made it through summer, good weather, people looking to get back to some of those activities, hopefully they see a great resurgence, and that can set them up for months and years to come.
Why are there so many inconsistencies, though, when it comes to summer festivals this year? No word yet if we'll be having the Whoop Up Days here in Lethbridge. Calgary Stampede is a go in a reduced capacity, and no K-Days in Edmonton this year.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the diversity we have in our province, right? Each region, each municipality has a lot of authority on their own kind of events, what they'll open to, and how comfortable they are. Not every community's had the same level of uptake on vaccinations. Not every community has the same case count, that kind of thing. So different communities will take different approaches. I'm very hopeful that we will have Whoop Up Days here in Lethbridge. I know Raymond just had their parade last week and had a fantastic turnout. So a couple more of those successful events, and I think we'll see more and more people come back online.
Premier Jason Kenney shuffled his cabinet recently. Now, some of the most notable names include Jason Lewan going from mental health and addictions to community and social services. Rajan Sawhney took over from Rick McIver as Minister of Transportation. Nathan, why the shuffle? Is it that the Premier maybe didn't have confidence in certain people, in certain portfolios?
I don't think it was that. I think it's just we've been 2 years. COVID extended the time from when he would naturally have made a cabinet shuffle. So now that we finished the session, we have definitely seen the decline of COVID. It's a very natural time to make some of those changes and give some fresh faces a chance. And I think we're hoping for a resurgence in our economic recovery, some new names, new faces, move things around a little bit and move forward. It could have been a lot more seats changed, but I think we've got some good additions there.
Yeah, like Tyler Shandro kept his health portfolio, Devin Dreeshen, the Ag Minister, and so forth. Travis Taves with the Finance Minister. How about Nathan Neudorf? Any chance you become a minister, maybe, in the next cabinet shuffle?
Well, you never know what can happen. I'm very pleased at this point to be serving as caucus chair, elected by the rest of private members in caucus to represent them and help their voice to be heard by cabinet. So I do have a very unique and fulfilling role in that chair, and a lot of access to the Premier and Cabinet to make sure those voices get heard as well. I think it's a great balance to Cabinet. So while I would love to serve in Cabinet if that opportunity came my way, at least I have a role right now where I can really sink my teeth into, and again, help the private members get their voices and concerns heard, and again, build us together as a team.
The province and the federal government recently announced the Canada Housing Benefit Addendum under the National Housing Strategy, providing $444 million in funding up to the year 2028 to support Alberta's recently redesigned rental supplement program. And what will that really look like for needy Alberta families?
Well, I think there's some really great parts in that measure. There's access to temporary help for those who are really feeling the pinch right now, which is really good news because we've come through a long time where some of our people are really suffering. And there's also a part that is more maintained long-term supports where people can access those for a number of years, and that'll really help those people have some stability. as you know, Hal, some people can bounce back very quickly. We get a new job, and everything goes up quite quickly. Some people need a little more time. So I'm glad that it has both aspects within this program.
More and more unmarked graves are being discovered near former residential schools, Nathan. Over 1,500 so far and counting. It's just a matter of time before we discover a large number here in our province. Now, what's being done to find a lot of the graves here, and how will this work toward reconciliation with our Indigenous communities?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very challenging time for us in Canada and Alberta. And our government has established the Alberta Residential Schools Community Research Grant. So I had to look at my notes there to make sure I got all those words right. And it's an $8 million fund to help support community research into unmarked burial sites and undocumented deaths. We have to face this part of our history. We have to do so with compassion, care, with truth, to find the truth that's there, and then work towards reconciliation with those First Nations brothers and sisters throughout our province. This is a good first step. We'll see what we need to do beyond that, but this is a place to start.
You know, the number of people have been acting out and vandalizing and burning churches across the West here. The Catholic Church in Morinville is no more. Nathan, why is it that more people were being arrested in Alberta for going to church during the pandemic rather than those who are attacking and burning churches?
Well, I think those are some troubling numbers right now. I do believe that there were very few that were actually arrested going to church. I know some organizations, some pastors face some unfortunate consequences. Not how I would like the script to read, certainly. But I do believe that as we investigate each one of those fires, our police and law enforcement officers will find out the truth of those situations, and each one will have its own significance and story. And I believe the appropriate actions will be taken at that time to bring those perpetrators to the correct results and justice as needed.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's better to build up than tear down. And right now we have to do a better job building up as a society right here, working towards reconciliation. Nathan, millions of Albertans have now been vaccinated, and our city, Lethbridge, has close to 75% of all eligible people aged 12 and over receiving at least one jab. Now, for those who are still uncomfortable with receiving a COVID-19 vaccine, what would you like to say to them?
Basically, I just want to reassure them, ask them to talk to their doctor, ask them to look at the facts, watch their friends who have received the vaccination. There's been a lot of hype, there's been a lot of controversy, there's been a lot of conspiracy theories about that, but we do know that every vaccine and almost every medication has unfortunate side effects. So I want anybody and everybody considering it to feel comfortable with their decision. They need to take the time that they've taken. We're very fortunate in Lethbridge that 75% of people have done so. That allows us to open much more readily. But I don't want anyone to feel coerced into taking that vaccine. I need people to feel comfortable that they have made the right decision for themselves in the right time. There are those who react adversely to different medications more readily than others. We need to give them the time to make that decision for themselves.
Let me ask you something. Can I ask you a personal question? Have you been vaccinated?
I have. I'm fortunate to be fully double vaccinated, have been for several weeks, and no side effects for me. I'm very thankful for that. And that was my decision, my choice, but I want to make sure everybody has the freedom to make that decision for themselves.
You know, some people thought it was kind of odd that the Alberta government is hosting a lottery, giving away millions of dollars in cash and prizes. Some people kind of compare it to like a car manufacturer who offers cashback rebates for less popular models that they want to get off the lot. We're incentivizing Albertans with their own tax dollars. How do you respond?
Well, I try to change the conversation a little bit by saying we're actually incentivizing people for their health and to save costs. You can imagine that with the numbers that we've seen in Alberta, for a patient that ends up in the ICU, I think an average cost for the duration of their stay is something like $26,000 per patient. Well, you multiply that by a couple thousand, well, that might be a bit high, by say a few hundred to 1,000 people who have been in ICU, that's a significant cost for the province. A small number, I think it's $3 million prizes for a vaccination lottery, will more than pay for itself in health savings and health cost savings over time. And again, I don't want anybody to take that as coercion, but it is an incentive to help people maybe make that decision to get vaccinated.
Finance Minister Travis Taves recently announced that the province must rein in healthcare spending, citing that Alberta nurses are making 5.6% more than nurses in some other provinces. Alberta has got to get its spending under control, but cutting back on healthcare, especially right after a pandemic, not sure this is going to be very popular with many Albertans, Nathan. What do you think?
I agree with you, Hal. I actually think that timing is everything. In so many areas of our life, we know that timing's everything, and this timing couldn't be more poor. I know that when we were elected, balancing the budget was a huge priority, and we do have to keep the importance of that forefront in our minds. But in my personal opinion, nurses, we've been using and asking them to do more and more all the time. We need nurses to man vaccination clinics. We need nurses to work overtime on evenings and weekends for those who are getting sick. Nurses as a whole probably have done more for our province than any other group. They haven't had a single day off. They haven't been able to close hospitals in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, I think we need more nurses to do more work. So while I understand maybe the basic need for a negotiation on a base pay, the incentives for nurses to work overtime, evenings, weekends, holidays, I think we need to recognize how valuable they are and pay them accordingly. And there may be time in the future where we can balance the budget in that way. And we do have to always look at public sector wage negotiations. But I agree that this timing is poor, and I want to acknowledge and call our nurses what they are. Everyday heroes who go to work and do a lot to keep people safe, and that we've asked them to do more, and I think they should be compensated accordingly.
Are you also concerned that maybe some nurses will be following the lead of some of the doctors and leaving Alberta?
Not so much. I think nurses, by and large, are really invested in their community, and they are not nearly able to move up and leave like a doctor in their practice might be able to. They're more linked to their community, more linked to their hospital. But I do think that we need to recognize the work that they do and honor and praise them for that.
Justice Minister Casey Medu wanted Lethbridge Police Chief Shahimi Dizadeh to tweak his plan for cleaning up the Lethbridge Police Service, including the training of new officers and more transparency. Where do we stand with that? Because I know we had to do some tweaking, send it to Medu. Has it been settled now?
As far as I know, it has been settled. There's been some of that tweaking. They've managed a plan, and I think we have a very strong plan moving forward. Chief Medizadeh has done an incredible amount of work. He inherited a whole lot of bad news, if I can put it that way, and he has worked diligently and faithfully with his entire force. I don't know about you, Hal, but I haven't heard a single police officer complain about this incredible scrutiny that they've gone under. They have been true professionals. They've stood up in their uniform of blue. They've stood behind the badge. They've taken the good with the bad, and they're moving ahead as a strong police force, and I couldn't be more proud of them right now.
What's great about Chief Shahimi Dizadeh, too, he brings over 30 years of experience with the RCMP to his role as Lethbridge Police Chief here. Now, Nathan, we recently interviewed Paul Hinman with the Wild Rose Independence Party, which now apparently has around 20% of support from Albertans. Many are worried that with the Wild Rose gaining momentum, it would split the vote on the right, and once again, the NDP would go right up the middle the next election. Your thoughts?
It's very possible, and I believe that there's a very strong expectation on us as government right now to get out there and listen to the people of Alberta. We need to be more responsive. I know that I've been working harder to get out to the people in Lethbridge, to hear them, to listen to them, and to make sure that their thoughts and concerns are taken to Cabinet and the Premier so that we can respond and correct any course actions that we're doing. So it's going to be a lot of work. I may not be the most prolific on my social media platform, but I can tell you I do everything possible to get out there and talk to the average, everyday, normal Albertan, the person working in Lethbridge that might not be seen by government in typical times, to hear them, to hear their stories, and make sure that their voices are heard. And I will continue to do that with all my effort, all my time, and all my dedication.
You know, I think that's the key right now. You've got about 2 years to restore the confidence with Albertans before the next provincial election, because right now the UCP is polling quite low. So how do you restore that confidence? I mean, it's the door knocking, but what else can you do, really?
It's really responding and hearing to what people are saying, right, Hal? That's a difference between hearing and listening, in my opinion, and we've got to do more. We have to get back to some of those foundational basics that we were elected on and make sure that we're truly responsive to people and their needs and making some effective change. Now, I believe that we've done that to some degree. And I'm very proud of some of the investments we've made in Southern Alberta in our agricultural sector. But I think we need to do more. And it's not just about spending money, but it's about doing the corrective action so people can get the lives and livelihoods back that they want to have and they expect to have here in our great province.
Lethbridge East MLA Nathan Neudorf, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.